So today we're going to be talking about the two-world economy and its cycle. So the first thing that we're going to look at is at the idea of two worlds or two economies. Okay? And I know I'm repeating myself. This is from earlier. So the easiest way to do this is to look at the world around you and see who the players of the games are, who are benefiting the most economically and also genetically from the current system. It's kind of hard to look at it genetically, especially when it comes to intelligence, when you have such a warped system, but you can kind of see who's benefiting and who's not, or what kind of synthetic environment they're trying to create to cultivate people to be beneficial. The people at the very bottom, of course, are always going to be, for this particular system, are always going to be people that don't align themselves with the artificial system, and that even if they align themselves, they're not going to get anything, and that is the indigenous people. And it mirrors the predecessor of this particular, which is the the colonies, okay? The colonies. I'm probably spelling that wrong. Sorry. Big C. Okay? So big C's. And that is, take over, wipe out, take the kids, integrate them in, tell them they're nothing, that they're servants, blah, blah, blah. If you can't meet these levels, or if you don't have this bloodline, you're not going to win. You're just supposed to exist to serve, and you're dumb and stupid, and all your stuff's primitive. And then if you can't say it outright, you just make sure all the images, books, literature, TV, all this stuff says, you come from the dirt, we come from this, we outran you, we're on an evolutionary path. Okay. So that's big C's. Big C's are open with it. There's pretty much say, you're a slave, bye, see you later. Then you have workhouses, but workhouses are usually for people who are just uneducated in a lower caste system or class system, versus just a bloodline, even though they're very particular about bloodlines, especially when you're dealing with monarchy systems. But it's normally just for people who are on the lower level. Centralized workhouses usually have to be connected to large group institutions, including churches, some sort of foundation, and they're usually there for a reason. Mostly to study these people and also to do some other stuff. And you can look into this in the past. A lot of orphans and stuff like that. Then you have decentralized workhouses. That's out of the big C, and that's into what we presently call just, 90% of the population. They go from institution to workhouses. So they'll learn a little bit as a little kid, and then they become institutionalized through school, and school is usually ran like a prison. And their rights and stuff are restricted. Okay? So what makes it decentralized is these people are not responsible for their transportation to go to work, and they're not responsible for their insurance. Maybe there's some workers' comp, but most of the time they try to use non-coded ways of getting people not to go to the hospital, probably because a lot of people smoke stuff or things can show up on a blood test. There's a lot of non-coded ways that they use to manipulate people into not going into systems, not getting into the right thing, blah, blah, blah. Now it also goes with the lawyer thing, unsafe environment. Most of these people leave. They don't deal with the law because they themselves have been institutionalized within the flow to not be dealt with. If you're dealing with smaller towns, you can absolutely forget it. If you may have to get a lawyer out of town and be able to have transportation, blah, 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 in order to sustain your transportation money or sustain your stuff until you win your case. Most of the time, these companies, because they're part of a bigger system, they try to make sure that they're not consistently having to pay people, lawsuits and stuff like that for their bottom line. So they put things into place to avoid that. So they do benefit from this decentralized work area, okay? If you want to learn more about the two world systems or get clues, because it really show you everything, you can look up this economy versus stock market, false data, for hiring, etc., etc. Now we can get into mathematical models. Mathematicals, we're going to be, I'll show you what I was studying, which is the 2 practical algorithms from solving expectational models. Okay, this is straight from the Federal Reserve. So if you want to learn about the concept of people and how they live in this particular world, how you can make money, how you can make the world a better place, if you have an idea for something that's green or something that's going to help or whatever else, then you have to understand this particular cycle. Everything goes into this cycle. It doesn't matter if you're a small business or a large business. You have to live inside of this model. And this is an example of a model. This is not the model. Okay? And to give you a clue to how this works, it kind of tells you this is from Newton's law of the universe, gravitation, and the second law of motion. And it breaks it down on what it really is trying to do. Basically, the purpose of these algorithms is to find solution of a system, dynamic equation over a particular time period. It's trying to balance something. Okay, it can't just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are equations that it's dealing with, right? So data, equations, etc., and it's trying to balance. In this system, there are cycles, and one of the cycles that you will find is taxes. Okay, that's a less medieval way of perhaps seizing someone's property. I did go over it, but I didn't save the video. If you look at Gone with the Wind, that's basically what she's trying to fight. She's trying to fight servitude. She's trying to fight scrubbing floors in somebody else's house, or working the desk somewhere. She's trying her best to find what? She's trying to start her own business, and she's trying to keep her house, which is really not her house. Land is really not hers, because she's afraid that she's going to go up under these cycles. And that's also when you're dealing with war. So with the ethnic, for my people, we're dealing with a lot of ethnic cleansing or integration. So I'm here, so there had to be some sort of integration. With integrations, there's usually loss of, systems, religions, etc., right? Religion, belief systems are very hard to deal with when it comes to synthetic models. They don't do very well with complexity. They need people to be very limited and to be basically hand to foot. People cannot accumulate large amount of wealth unless they are considered one of the planets. And I'm saying this because literally the algorithm is literally like a small, synthetic universe where they determine the movements and these vectors or these large or literal planets create that particular universe. Those are the large sectors of power. Okay? They're responsible for food, the water, everything else that goes along with it. It's all conglomerate in an entity, and an entity doesn't really have a ruler per se, but it's a collective power. Okay? We also, for this particular economy, there's a trust system. There's a literal trust system that is open for you to look at, which is SSA. That's literally a trust. It wasn't a trust before, but now it's a trust. We have fiat money, which basically means no silver, no gold. Trust itself, or I guess the predictive power of the economy, or stock market, is what they balance this stuff with. But to me, whenever I look at it anthropologically, is that you literally are dealing with the trust. They have founding fathers, and then the country was decentralized as far as the colony-wise into smaller states by certain groups of people to be running those states, but ultimately it runs under one trust. And these trusts are usually, the people that run the trust are usually coming from a same collective background. It doesn't matter how poor they were and then they became rich. They come from a very much collective background. That means even though you may change the people in the seats, the system itself always maintains its equilibrium. So if you look at, let's say, the big ones for minority, big O, the system still maintains, if not strengthened, its power. Then you see Big T. Big T comes in and he's supposed to trump them all, but he still maintains the market. The market is still considered to be workable. Nothing gets overturned. Okay? Except for maybe the people. And that's all I'm going to say about microeconomics. If you would like to break this down and look at all the little models and everything else, here you go. Here's the resources. It's on the Federal Reserve. You can Google it. It's here for you. All right, in the next video, I'll tell you a little bit about synthetic evolution, which is this system here, coming up against the natural evolution, which is, say, just the environment, right? You have a synthetic evolution that's going to support, let's say, large amount of just stuff that's going to mess up the air and the environment, get some money now, and then you have to pay later. Then you ruin other stuff like your crops and other stuff like that. That affects your other equilibrium, food, water, and shelter, right? So your synthetic universe versus the natural universe.